Just to set some context, we are going to be talking about primarily free-to-play games and India market. It's basically going to be about how do you go about launching a game, what are the key performance indicators you need to look out for, and once you do launch the game, what do you need to make sure you stay up on the top, right? And it's going to be a more one-on-one level discussion, but we will open up for Q&A if you guys have any further questions. We have folks who've been there, done that, spent massive budgets, so they know what they're doing in terms of user acquisition. And we also have somebody from the platform side who is making all that money from user acquisition. So we will talk about that. So do you guys want to go first, introduce yourself?
Hey, hi, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Mohul. I represent Junglee Games. We are the fastest growing real money gaming platform in India and now Southeast Asia. So I look after a bunch of things at Junglee Games, starting with product management. I look into the entire gamification and the engagement modules of all the games of Junglee, followed by product marketing, basically how to GTM the product and ensure that there is maximum adoption of it. Then I look into the overall P&L of the organization, plus a bunch of other things related to the communications and a few other pieces, which are pretty much detailed, which I'll skip. So yeah, all over the place, but in a good way. So over to you.
Hi, I'm Nalin. Actually, I represent Octro, and we are basically into both the casual gaming segments as well as the real money gaming segment. So basically we are pioneered into the card games. So like Teen Patti being our flagship product, Octro Teen Patti, from last 7 years it's been in top grossing in India, right? Recently we have acquired companies from Israel and Ukraine like DGN Games. So we are expanding our businesses in other geos, especially tier 1 geos like US, UK markets, right? So yep, so that's it. So I'm heading the marketing for them, so both marketing and CRM. So yeah, we will be speaking more about that in the discussion.
Yeah, Octro is the first Indian company to monetize building an Indian game, which, so awesome.
Hey everyone, I'm Prabhanshu. I've been with Google for like 7 years now, and I manage various big developers in the gaming industry. And to correct Sridhar, we help gaming companies scale, and in that order also make some money.
That hit you hard.
This question is for Mohul. We have a lot of young people here who are working on, I've been walking around, I've been meeting people, and they have some amazing games, right? And some of them look awesome.
Yeah.
But the question would be, okay, you think you have an awesome game, but are you really ready to launch? What do you go about, what do you need to know about your game from user perspective and other things to be able to launch?
Okay. Sure. Thanks for your question. I'll rather break it down into two parts. So one is what all are the prerequisites before I launch a game, and second is once I'm ready to launch, like what all are the things in terms of KPIs, processes, product funnels that I need to look into. Now, in terms of prerequisite, of course, market sizing becomes the most important piece, right? So whether you know this is one product which has a market for it, and there are multiple ways to find out whether there is a product market fit, there is a user base which is available, and one of the easiest ways to understand it, for example, if I were to, in fact, whenever we were launching Ludo, right? So we actually looked into the Play Store and the App Store, the kind of app downloads were happening, and that sort of gave us an indicator that, hey, if just hypothetically speaking, if there are about 100 million downloads of Ludo app which has happened, and let's say there are repeat install of about, say, 30%, so net about 60 to 70 million users are available in the market who are already adopted to Ludo. So that's my lowest hanging fruit, and after that I'll figure out from the marketing strategy that what is the additional set of users that I want to migrate, which is more of the liquidity migration. That there are many other casual games, so whether there is any kind of overlap which is happening over there, so that's where I can understand it from different kind of FGDs and market studies, etc. Now Purely in terms of the development side, right? So, of course, the entire product, if it is a casual game which does not really have a transaction unit attached to it, meaning that if it does not have an in-app purchase as such, then the game becomes relatively easier, because then you won't have to handle the beast of handling everything in and around transaction. If there is a transaction unit attached with it, then you will have to look into the regulatory pieces. Then you will have to look into any kind of vendor onboarding in terms of payment gateway, looking at the success rates, what kind of success rates the payment gateway gives, etc. Right before the launch, few key things apart from doing the usual UAT of the product to check whether the core functionalities are working fine or not. What you need to know is how are you going to measure the success of the product, right? So and at Junglee, we totally believe in data, and what we look at is at every single funnel level, starting from the ANRs and the crash rates, right? So if a particular app which has been uploaded, if there are multiple crash rates or the crash rates is increasing or not, so that sort of gives you an indication whether the development has happened correctly or not, what is the overall quality of the app. After that, you break it down into different funnels where you check from Play Store visit to installs. So what is the funnel looking like? And obviously there are market benchmarks which are very easily available in Google. And if you're not getting it, reach out to Prabhanshu. He will give you all the insights. But from discovery to installation, that becomes funnel number 1. From installation to registration, basically whether you are signing up, so that becomes funnel number 2. From registration to playing your first game, or whatever is the first interaction point based on which you have built the product, how is that funnel looking like? And then eventually from first game to doing the first transaction, which leads to a complete coverage of the overall product funnel. Post that, there are some business metrics that you also need to identify to know that whether on day 1 or day 2 or day n, the product is working fine. And that is where, apart from the funnels which I spoke about, so whether the retention rates are holding or not, whether the repeat app launches are holding well or not, what kind of uninstallation rate is happening. So a bunch of things around that. We can get into the details of it, but for the interest of time, I'll pass it on.
Actually, if possible, we would like to hear some numbers. If you say, hey, conversion, what kind of conversion? But before that, I just wanted to add something to what Mohul said. One of the things is, if you're building on a free-to-play game, you don't really need to worry about in-app purchase, payment gateways, and all that. That's more on the real money side. So Google and Apple, they do take care of all the IAP things. Okay. And of course, you don't want to pay their 20%, then there are Xsolar guys over there, you can talk to them. But that said...
Quite a good integration that we are doing here, I see.
No, and on the first step, right, Mohul mentioned whenever you're thinking of a game launch, the first step is obviously market sizing, and it's not rocket science. We think market sizing is a lot of things going together. One basic thing is go to Google Trends, see whatever game that you're looking at, look at the competition, and you'll broadly have a sense of how much interest already exists for the game. So that is step 101 to begin your market sizing, and obviously then you will deep dive.
But if you guys want to, if you have to give me some numbers, like this kind of retention you need to have based on this genre of game you're working on, otherwise don't waste your time, what would they be?
Okay, so I think I would rather break your question into 3 parts. I would take it into the entire approach, how we actually launch a game, right? So I will step by step, I will cover that query as well. So usually whenever we launch a game, we usually break them into 3 parts. One is like a pre-launch phase, right? Then comes the soft launch phase and the launch phase. So usually in the pre-launch phase, what you do, you start, Google helps us a lot in that, because with the pre-registration campaigns, you can start getting your pre-registrations from the pre-launch campaigns. You can start building your community around, listening to your community from especially like having a Facebook page or Instagram page, stick to one community to be around, and let's build this community, listen to them, what they actually want in the product, why they are looking out for another change, because you will be entering, if you are entering into the same category which already exists in the market, you need to listen to the other guys as well, right? So apart from that, once that community will be built, then comes the soft launch phase, which is the most critical phase. So while Mohul actually mentioned the ANRs rates and crash rates, so everything we have to test during this soft launch phase. So what you need to do basically this phase is get your best core audiences on board with a small amount of budgets, and see what are your current integrations looks like, ANR and crashes looks like, your retention rates look like, right? So usually the number, when usually Google provides the threshold numbers for each category, there's a different threshold number, but usually what are are you above the benchmark of those threshold, below the benchmark? Because I think Google gives a much priority if you are looking out for organic growth, then those numbers are very critical while you are launching the game. So those need to be there below the threshold, as well as if possible below your peers as well, right? So secondly, when it comes to retention, so second important question during soft launch is what's your day one retention look like? If your day one retention, and you must already be doing all the competition benchmarking before obviously even going for the product, so you already know that what your competitors retention numbers look like on day one. So are you nearby, or are you very far away from that? Let's say if your competitors' retention number are 35 to 40% and yours are 20%, you have to do still a lot of work. You're not launch ready yet, right? Apart from that, still if your 40% is your day one retention, but your day 7 retentions look like 10%, still your product is not ready, because you are able to maintain D1, but D7 you are not able to maintain. So you are not able to hold the people on your platform yet, right? Again, it depends on the game to game. Be it a hyper casual game, the story will be different. Casual game story will be different. Card category, it will be different, right? But numbers will be somewhere else. So if in industry we see the numbers of retention is usually your D1 to D7 ratio should be ideally 50% or above to be on the safer side, right? So by having said that, if your D1 is 40, your D7 should be around 20 or more, right? So that's the number I'm talking majorly from the card gaming perspective, but even from the AAA games usually take the same numbers, right? So that's the case. So, and again, so once the soft launch been done, you are already ready. Even in the soft launch, you have to test your creatives done, right? What your icon look like? Is your Play Store ready from the ASO perspective, right? What your screenshots are? Are your conversion rates good enough? Again, you have a conversion rate benchmarks as compared to peers. Google provides you those data, right? So you have to have in the top, not exactly 75, but at least from the 50, more than 50% of your competitors, above 50% of your competitors. Then only stores will be ready. So what kind of stores? Let's say if you are launching a game in India and your audience lies in, let's say, south of India, your store not need to be ready just in English, but maybe in the other languages as well, because most of the people actually want their devices are in the languages which is not English. So you need to prepare your stores accordingly when you are launching those games, and all these things comes into soft launch phase. So once you know your KPIs and your matrices are good enough in the soft launch phase, then go for a full funnel approach and a burst campaign during the launch. When I say full funnel approach, obviously target top of the audience, where you are actually interacting the audience with the brand name, with the presence, with your KPIs, like what USP you have apart from that. Then middle of the funnel, where your major KPIs is to get them, retain them, and the bottom of the funnel KPIs, where you are actually trying to, if ad revenue is the thing, then trying to get the retention. If your KPI is to purchase, then getting the purchase done from them. So getting to the bottom of the funnel on that. So go with the full funnel approach in the launch, and as you are already tested all the icons, creatives, so you are already utilized those creatives and taglines during those launch phase at a much higher scales. So usually that's what my launch strategy usually is.
And you said to launch, try to do a burst campaign. Can you elaborate on that?
So when I say burst campaign, usually not only stick to the core audiences, which I said in the soft launch, so look out for, as I said, top funnel. Top funnel is like not only the core audience, whatever your lateral audience can be, right? Reach out to them as well. Look out for the more, because you already know that what retention looks like for the core audience, but you need not to stick to the core audience, because you need to create the new markets. So then not only Google, Facebook, you can go, if your product requires some offline branding as well, you can go with the offline branding if the budget persists. And if we can go ahead with, so start creating the brand and the buzz around the market.
So broadly, Sridhar, the recommendation is for any new launch, if you have the money, that caveat exists, orchestrate a movie strategy, right? You're broadly going to get people in the first 2-3 weeks. If the product is good, it will sustain on its own post that. So if you are able to orchestrate a movie strategy, which is you have the right teaser, trailer, the launch is fantastic, you have all the jing bangs, you will broadly land it. But obviously that will take some money. But even if you don't have the money, you need to talk to your users to understand what do you need to communicate and orchestrate it in that manner that you are teasing around the launch, you are there at whatever scale so that everyone knows now you have fully launched, the product is fully baked, you sustain it for 2-3 weeks. Because broadly 60-70, more than 50% of your installs most likely will happen in the first 4 weeks or so. And then if the product is good, you will sustain. And in terms of launch also, right, quick checklist from a platform perspective, in a particular order, ideally start with close testing on the platform, move to open testing, and with a big caveat on with all the features that you're probably gonna offer at the end of the full launch. You can't not be doing payments in open testing and then launch. Move to pre-reg in that exact order. Talk about pre-reg a lot because those are the hardcore gamers. A stat, 87% of everyone who downloads a game has broadly searched for it sometime in his journey. So do pre-reg, get those people, because once you launch, all of them will get notifications of the launch. You can orchestrate a download also then, right? So in this order, do it on Play Store. Second, like Nalin said, localize the app, very, very important. Your Play Store or App Store or wherever you are listed is like your shop. So make it as beautiful, as informative as possible. And last, if there is a pricing angle involved, please talk to your users, understand, do a full competition benchmarking before putting out a price, because that is a crazy put off. If you put up random numbers without the right research, that will immediately break the funnel even if you get download. And like on launch, I said, if you can orchestrate a movie strategy, that would work well.
So on that note, from a platform point of view, do you think there is like a window during initial stages where there's more weightage for newer games? If so, how long is that window?
4 weeks broadly.
4 weeks, cool. That's
The
cool.
first 2 weeks very critical, another 2 weeks. So 4 weeks is that window where you broadly know where you've landed.
So I think when we launch, usually Google gives us a boost as well on the stores to,
For 4
and yeah. So usually you can actually, when you are already ready with all the stuff during soft launch and during launch, Google gives you a push to grow organically as well. So we have seen multiple times that my organic was much more higher than what we are actually getting from the inorganic, even in the launch phase. So
And
just one critical bit, Sridhar, do not try so when you are building the product, when you are testing also, please sequence the features, because essentially when you are testing 5 features, you don't know what is working well and you're not able to attribute, right? So do one, do second, you will know what is landing, what is not landing, what is creating the right impact, what is not. Otherwise it is, you do 10 things and then you don't know what's landed, and then you just continue with this. It becomes a vicious cycle. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
I'm sure this is publicly available somewhere, but you said pre-register and all that. What kind of conversions do you see from pre-registration to downloads?
So basically, if you will see, usually pre-registrations, we actually got like around 10,000 to 20,000 pre-registrations before the launch, and out of that actually we got 15,000 people while we launched on the very first week of the game. 15,000 actually came back from the pre-registration and actually played on the game.
10,000, sorry, those numbers.
So those register 15
out of 20,
right.
you said 75%.
75% conversion?
Conversions.
So broadly, depends again on the category, but you would expect these numbers to be very high because somebody's come and pre-registered for a game. So why would he not then actually download? So these numbers generally tend to be on higher percentages than your regular.
But I'm talking more from the card category, but maybe the FPS games and other games, right? Maybe they have very high pre-registrations as well as the very high conversion rates.
Cool. Okay, so you have a great game, you're ready to launch, things you shouldn't be doing.
Like I told you, doing too many things, holding back on features which will actually be available during launch and not previewing them to the users. not talking to your users enough and drawing that insight and then making your store what the users want to see. And I think honestly, if you don't have, let's say, around the launch time, there is a certain scale that is needed to sort of put your marketing dollars to work, and that also needs a foundation, which is you need to have your measurement right, attribution right. If you don't have the marketing dollars, don't have the stack, don't earn the money.
Are there any things where you get negatively, or a penalty kind of thing on Google if you do something stupid? What would those things be?
No, just the app experience. First of all, if you're violating any policy, that's a big no. It will pull down your account. And for new developers, especially for the big developers, they can reach out to people, they can understand policies. For the smaller developers who've just launched the game, please read the fine print and stick to that. And yeah, broadly.
Yeah, basically don't do any sneaky business. So, because it just I'll answer this question more from the product design standpoint, because a lot of developers over here would want to know that, see, once you're landing onto the app for the first time after doing a registration, right? As a product designer, product manager, or owner of the app, you just need to know that what is the next best action that you want the user to do, right? Oftentimes what happens is all of us end up thinking that let's put this, let's put that, let's put a pop-up, let's put an offer, let's put 3 other offers, and then 5 different kind of games. So that is something which is definitely not needed. So have you actually decided, or are you clear on what is that next best action? And as Prabhanshu was saying, so if we are keeping it simple, like less is more is the principle, that if you want the user to play their first game, right? Obviously, because it's a gaming app, that's the first thing that you would want to do. You might not want them to explore what is there in a different kind of reward, what kind of fancy testimonials which are there, which are definitely important, which is going to come up further in the funnel. But to understand that where are the blockers which are coming in to for the user to do their next best action, and post launch, and that is the first thing that you need to check when you are looking into the funnels, that from the first app load to playing the first game, if you have a clickstream data or any kind of user tracking data, that which all are the points the user is interacting, and can you reduce those points to ensure that they are playing a game. And as Nalin was also talking about, we need to look into the D1 retention, right? Now, when you break this down further, so ballpark, again, a hypothetical number, let's just say the D1 retention is 80%. So am I supposed to be happy with that, or there is something in between? So within that, you just need to understand that what share of those users, so of the 80% users who are getting retained on D1, what is that action that they have taken? And if you take another step back, that what is the source of those users who are actually driving that 80% retention, that is going to drive your marketing strategy. That if you are, suppose you are spending like 50% of your share on Google, 30% of your share on media buying, 20% of your share on Facebook, and surprisingly you might just see, Prabhanshu would be offended, you might just see that Facebook is giving you better retention rates, right? So you actually need to double down on that one, and vice versa. And then all of these pieces, right? So when we started off with funnel, the next best action that the user needs to take, why are they staying retained, where are they coming from, all of this ties up to make you understand that how should you plan your marketing strategy, and how does that transcend into the retention work.
Let's talk a little bit more on UA. One of the things we talked about is like, okay, yeah, you have to, make sure certain KPIs are there and all that, and game development is hard. It's like, it takes a couple of years and all that. Is there a better way to actually even decide you want to build something, right? Is there a better way to test your idea even before, like we've all learned a lot from what hyper casual guys have done. What is the learning free-to-play guys can take from hyper casual guys, and if so, what are you guys seeing in terms of trends?
So I think usually, even deciding on which game to launch, we do a lot of market study and market research, right? So during those research, you already go with that what markets are giving us the revenue and what genres are working into picture. Unless and until you are actually launching something which is not there in the market, that might be an issue. That what data to find out, where to find out it will work or not. In that case, only way is to like do the soft launch and test it out. But otherwise, like there is a lot of data already available in the market, and a lot of tools are already available which gives you a decent size of revenues, install numbers, organic growth numbers, CPI numbers. You have all the data already available. So you actually pre-plan even before deciding the game development, even going for the development, right? So that's the right way to actually even decide on which game to launch and which country to launch it in.
Yeah, I'll just also putting an extension to what Nalin said, right? Will throw a PNL angle to it, right? So there is a cost of development. So it can be 10 developers, 1 developer. There's a cost of time as well, right? Where you said 2 years. Now that amounts to something, right? Now you need to decide as an owner that by when do I want to break even. So that's where actually the math starts. For example, I want to break even within 12 months, right? And I have spent, for example, 1 CR on the entire game development. Now if you backtrack and you know that what all are the areas, and specifically in case of casual games or hyper casual games, your source of revenue would be possibly ad networks and all the acquisition distribution channel revenue or commission that you earn out of it. Now if you have spent 1 CR and you want to recover 1 CR by the end of this year, so you now need to know that what percentage of acquisition that I need to have, what percentage of the users do I need to retain till D365 to ensure that my ad network revenue is actually breaking even my initial cost. Now you backtrack. And that's where you would be able to understand that even on D180 or D30 or D0, what is the kind of retention rate that I need to have. And beyond the retention rate, I can have a fantastic retention rate, but the users are not doing anything, right? That is where you need to identify that how are you increasing, let's say, average games per user. Because the more the number of games you play, the more the ads you can show, the more commission you earn out of it. So that's where everything is tied to unit economics.
Another way, I think the retention, like I have seen the apps which keeps giving free chips to the users and my retention looks very great. What about revenue? You will never get a revenue out of it. Yeah. You need to have a balance in between how much you, so there's called a source and sink. What does the source look like and how much sink I'm able to generate. If there is just source, there's no sink, your retention numbers will look good, but you will never earn the money. So you have to take certain times, you have to take a hit on the retentions, right? But that's like necessary.
I think that's a more an RMG problem than a free-to-play.
That's a casual gaming problem basically. Like there is no free money in RMG.
Yeah, so in fact it is easier in RMG, and what he's saying is actually right, because you sort of get carried away with the number of chips that you want to give. What is exactly that chip economy? And trust me, it is in-game currency, and handling those alternative currencies is way more difficult than that of real money.
And from an org perspective, Sridhar, that's why I think acquisition and retention have to have single ownership at some level. But because other guy keeps acquiring low quality users, the other person has to deal with low quality users and retain them. So the ownership has to be with the same.
So that's the new thing, and not new. It's been around in free to play. Product heads are the folks who own the P&L. They are involved with the game design side as well as they are involved in promotion. One of the biggest thing from hyper casual side which has come in, which every one of us has to learn, is when you're building a game, there are 2 aspects to it. There's the genre or the type of game you're building and the theme of the game itself, right? So you need to separate those 2. Theme basically could be art style, theme can be what is it about. Genre is what kind of game is it? Is it a match 3? Is it a mashup with some coin master theme? Whatever it is. Genre, you already know how much money you can make from it, right? There are benchmarks out there. Okay, this one LTV could be $3, $5, $10 based on geo. Whereas theme, you don't know, and that's where there's a lot can be tested. So hyper casual taught us that if you can make, because innovation, there is a saturation from a product side, right? There is everybody is hitting a ceiling in terms of how much you can make per user based on geography and all that. But there is still so much which can be done from user acquisition side innovation, right? So if you do the right thing there, you can disrupt a genre which has been around. Like if you say match 3, people have been building games for like 15 years now. You can still disrupt it if you innovate on the user acquisition side. So that's one of the areas we would like you guys to think about. We probably have 1 minute or 2 minutes for one question or two questions if anybody wants to.
Sorry, Dinesh.
Hello. My question to the Pandey sir. Actually, as you mentioned that the Google is very strict. Yes, sir. From you. As you said, Google is very strict regarding the policy violation. For the new developer, if we violate any policy, then the Google put it down. And as you know, every country have the different policies for that, and for the new developer, it's very difficult to check all the policies for every country. Is there any SDK or any tool from the Google side so the new developer check which policy is violated, so it will be corrected timely before their loss?
There's no
Not that I know
tool.
of,
So usually technical, when you upload,
Yeah.
it tells you what's wrong.
Exactly. So
right?
you get the rejection email, and the rejection email clearly states
At the list
reason
of all the reasons around.
of all the reasons, and you need to comply with all of these for you to get approved. So when you're doing it for the first time, you keep continuing violating policies, you will just not go live. That's okay, because you will iterate and make it finally live. It is when you are live and you start sneaking in things that are not allowed is when it gets in the muddy space.
Actually, this is when the product is live, and on the live period, if there is any new policy come with any from any country, then on that time
It will be that email and those portals, because
I think Google gives good enough time
any new
even
policy.
before implementing the policy. So you will at least get like 2 to 3 months before implementing this policy. You will have an email with a date that this policy will be applied from this particular day. So you have enough time to rectify the things.
Okay.
And if you don't do that, then the action will be taken. But
Let's move on to the next question, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We have a question here, and then one more, but it's tea break. Yeah.
I want, firstly, my name is Nalin Savara. I run a company called Dark Sun Technologies in Delhi, and I really enjoyed the discussion and the insights that all of you people threw up. And there's a part of me that says that this question may not apply to free-to-play games, but I have seen that even on the Xbox and PlayStation indie store, there is the option of putting your game up as a free download or having a game there, which can have in-app purchases. So, I'm noticing your expressions that this may not be applicable to you guys to answer, but I was going to ask how would some of these insights apply to that? But it's okay. I mean, if that's out of element, then let this question opportunity
we
pass
can
to someone
chat
else.
offline, because
Sure.
The reality is there is a playbook when it comes to mobile games, right? How do you promote your game, right? Whereas with Xbox or PlayStation, it's still, you still have to do most of the things, building up a brand, building up a community, those aspects haven't changed. You're building for mobile, you're building for console, you're building for PC. But how you acquire does change. Like, can you use Facebook and Google to acquire, like unit economics based downloads? Maybe not, right? So there is that aspect too. But then, I'm sure Microsoft as well as Sony has their own network on to help you, acquire users. So that's it. But otherwise, everything else we spoke is like common for everyone.
Got it. Thanks a ton, Sridhar.
Yeah. Last question, and we're closing.
Yeah. So, what is a good time to start pushing ads on the game, and how does it impact retention?
Okay. Sure.
I can go for it first. So there is free to play if you're building free to play, and the great thing about India now is India is monetizing, right? So people have started seeing some of the games are making at the range of 300-400 million dollars a year in India right now, which wasn't the case even 2-3 years back, right? And I'm not talking RMJs, real free-to-play, real games where there's nothing to be won in terms of cash. So we would recommend you focus on IAP first, right? Your compulsion loop should be strong enough, and the people were talking about inflation and all those management. If you do great product management, and if you have the retention, then you can just focus on monetizing through IAPs, Now, there is this situation where you are getting insane number of users and you don't really have retention. That's when you start thinking about, okay, can I make a little bit of money from ads, right? And then there is the third combination where IAP and ads. But focus should always be, you can even put in a window, right? It's like, okay, it all depends upon the genre. If you're building hyper casual, day one you throw in ads because your long-term return is low. But if you're building free to play, you could put in a window that I'm going to wait as long as I can wait to make sure they convert before I bombard them with ads, right?
I'll just add a couple of lines to that. And as he said, make sure you wait. And once the wait time is over, what do you do? So that's the fundamental question, right? And no one really knows that whether after the first game I show the ad or after the 5th game I show the ad. So there are two things which we do. Number one is, of course, competitor analysis, where we see that what is the usual ad impression behavior on the competitors. Let's say, for example, it is after the 3rd game the ad is shown. Now, that might be the right strategy for you. That might not be the right strategy for you because you might short sell, right? So you might end up losing out on a lot of revenue if you don't show the ad on the 1st game. So the best way to do this is do an A/B test, right? So where you do, suppose you just put in a framework of 5 games, right? You show in one path, you show the ad after the 1st game, second path after the 2nd game, then 3rd game, so on and so forth. And whatever is the best conversion that you are getting to see. And obviously you need to have a leading and lagging metric around it. So you might get extremely carried away that, okay, with path number 1, which is very obvious that right after the 1st game you are showing an ad, you will see a lot of ad revenue bumping up. But is that something that you want? Because your entire retention funnel might get missed out. So that's where you need to really find out that what is the secondary KPI that you are looking into it. So it's a combination of retention as well as the ad revenue. And that is where you get the final player value or the cumulative player value, which determines what's the strategy to take.
What do you mean by leading and lagging? Can you elaborate that?
The leading metric in this particular case would be, because his question was related to ad, right? My leading metric would always be what is the revenue per user. Right, so let's say if I'm generating 10 paise per ad, so that's like 10 ads per user leads to 1 rupee per user, so that's the math, right? But as I said, you can always show up the ad right upfront in the funnel and you can have a great revenue KPI, but that might be actually bleeding your entire system because your users are getting very pissed off that, hey, why are you showing me the ad? Let me just get adjusted to the game at least, right? So that's where you understand that what is the right optimum point to put up the ad, because you just want them to warm up to the game and then gradually move into the monetization flow. And that's where the A/B testing comes into picture and you understand what's the most optimum one.
Cool. You want to add?
So I will give an example to this. So basically, I have 2 games. In first one, we show the ad on the very first day, and another game where, like, let's say you can tier 1 market based, where we show the ad after 30th day, right? There's a strategy, right? Why we show on the first and why it's not same across all the games. It again depends on the games and the KPIs that Mohul correctly measures, right? Again, linking to the thing that ad is a source. Again, as I mentioned, source and sink ratio, right? So the game in which we are showing the ad on the first day, if we will remove the ad, my retention will go down drastically, because now, but I have managed that I will not leak the chips from any other sources apart from ads. So I have limited the ads to 5 or 6 or 10 on the very first day, which I know that my limit is up to that, okay, which can create a good retention and later on can convert as well, users conversion. So you need to understand that what your conversion funnels look like, user conversion funnels. If you say that my users retain for 7 days and converts on 8-9 day, why not retain them for 8 days and convert them on later on? Show the ads initially. You say no, my users converts on the very first day because my economy is so strong that and my gameplay is so strong that they will purchase on the very first day. Why not show less ads or no ads on the first day, and then later on, if not converting in first 7 days, start showing them the ads, because you know that they are not going to convert any much more. So usually what happens in the industry, what I have seen so far is most of the 80% of the users who have to convert usually gets conversion first 10 to 15 days. Right. Later on, you can actually throw the ads. If people are still playing with the free money and not generating any revenue for you, you can add the frequency, you can increase the frequency of ads for them. So at least you get the ad revenue out of it. If it's not actually contributing to your economy or disturbing your economy, especially for example, like a slot game, right, which is against the system. Right, so whatever you're generating, either it go to the system or come to you. It will not affect another person's economy. So you can do multiple ads, multiple system ads, right? If it's a multiplayer game, your chips gonna go to some other wallet, which might impact your economy. So you need to control your ad economy as well over there. That how much and what amount of ads I need to show and what amount of leakage I need to go with the ad. So again, it depends on ad to ad, funnel to funnel, your approach, that what your game actually wants from the user to do and what your initial KPI is.
So that's it, guys, for today, from us at least. But these three are going to be around at the tea, and feel free to walk up to them and ask any questions you have. And thanks for your time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Sridhar, the panel, stellar panel. Thank you so much.